agency. A lot of people thought the Indiana Fever was going to pull up short. I'm here to tell you, they was playing chess while everybody else in the damn W was playing checkers, bro. They just strategically put this thing together.
Remember when everyone said Caitlin Clark was getting bullied on the court? Well, the Indiana Fever just made a game-changing move, one no one saw coming. They brought in Sophie Cunningham, one of the toughest enforcers in the league, and this just might make Clark unstoppable. But here's the real kicker. This trade is bigger than just adding another player. So, who is Sophie Cunningham? And why does she matter? Let me break it down. She's not just a scrappy competitor. She's the fearless, hard-nosed warrior the Fever have been missing. And with her in the mix, everything is about to change.
So Sophie Cunningham was traded to the Indiana Fever in a trade that a lot of people are really confused at, but for me, I think it makes so much sense for the Indiana Fever to do what they did.
Do you remember how Caitlin Clark was getting pushed around last season? Yeah, it wasn't pretty. But those days, they're officially over. Enter Sophie Cunningham, a player who doesn't back down from anyone. She's not here to play nice. She's here to make sure Clark and the Fever stand their ground. If anyone tries to get physical, they'll have to go through her first. But here's the real twist. Cunningham isn't just tough. She's a serious threat on offense, too. Last season, she put up 18 points per game while knocking down an insane 45% from three. That kind of firepower? It doesn't just make a difference, it wins games.
This trade only makes sense, this trade for me anyway, makes perfect sense but you have to look at it in a big picture type thing. And right now, if the Indiana Fever do not make any trades, this is a bad deal. But if you guys don't know, Sophie Cunningham is on a bargain contract. The Phoenix Mercury signed her to an absolutely bargain contract, basically as a favor, because she does so much work with the Phoenix Suns. And I think they offered her to go to Indiana and she said yes.
Now, you might be wondering, what did the Fever have to give up to land Cunningham? Well, here's where it gets even crazier. Believe it or not, they got all this toughness, shooting, and energy for just $100,000. That's right. Cunningham is on a bargain contract that's going to have other teams shaking their heads. It's like the Fever cracked the WNBA's cheat code and played it to perfection.
But she is being paid $100K a year. Her salary is basically identical to Nalissa Smith's. She is a much better prospect than Nalissa Smith. And with the fact that they've barely taken on any more salary, they don't have to use a first-round pick this year.
Let's dig even deeper. Cunningham isn't just about scoring and toughness. She's bringing a whole new energy to this team. You know those players who make everyone around them better? That's Cunningham. She's not just here to protect Clark. She's going to elevate the entire team's game. It's like the Fever just added a secret weapon, one that no one saw coming.
League trade, as Indiana sends the number 8 pick to Dallas as part of this deal, but gets Sophie Cunningham in return, a sharpshooter from Phoenix, a tough player as well. So in the same day as they get Natasha Howard, they get Sophie Cunningham, possibly adding 2 starters, while also bringing Kelsey Mitchell back, and in year 2 of Caitlin Clark. So the Fever are title contenders right now. That's the deal with this deal.
And here's the real game changer. Remember how Clark was constantly getting targeted and bullied on the court? Well, that's about to come to an end. As one analyst put it, Caitlin Clark finally has her enforcer. Sophie Cunningham won't tolerate the hate or the rough treatment Clark has been getting in the WNBA. Can you imagine how freeing that's going to be for Clark? She'll be able to do what she does best, absolutely dominate on the court, while Cunningham handles all the dirty work.
Long story short, man, we got to talk about Sophie Cunningham, what she brings to the team. And we all know Caitlin Clark has been a huge target for WNBA veterans, for just haters in general. And I'm here to tell you, Sophie Cunningham is not going to put up with the hate and the bullying Caitlin Clark has been receiving throughout the WNBA.
This isn't just about adding a player. It's about the Fever getting smarter. They didn't just improve. They found a way to turn their biggest weakness into a strength. And they did all of this while staying under the salary cap and leaving room for even more moves. It's like watching a chess master setting up the perfect game, and now we're all starting to see just how brilliant this move really was.
Again, you have got Sophie Cunningham and Natasha Howard and giving up Smith. Giving up Liz Smith. And by the way, with Grace Berger, Christy Sides forgetting Grace Berger existed. Grace Berger's a new player. So let's be real. You gave up Nalissa Smith and Erica Wheeler, because that's where the contract came from for Natasha Howard. And you brought in Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, and Grace Berger, and the 8th pick.
Now, you might be wondering, okay, the Fever made some moves, but what's the big deal about trading away the number 8 pick? Well, here's where things get really interesting. The Fever aren't just making trades, they're rewriting the playbook on how to build a championship team.
Is it annoying them giving up the 8th pick? Yes, but there's a possibility if they are going for added in free agency that they might not be able to afford to keep the 8th pick. I still think they come out as big winners for today. I think they're significantly better today than they were yesterday. And a pick is always hypothetical. Picks always have way more value during the draft than they do after the draft. Nalissa Smith was a 2nd pick and she is near negative value. Diamond Miller was the 3rd pick, or say it was the 2nd pick 2023. She's got no value. So picks are only as good as the players you draft.
With Cunningham and Howard, the Fever got instant winners. These aren't just any players. They're seasoned veterans who know how to win, and they'll complement Clark's game perfectly. Together, they'll help the Fever start stacking up those W's. Can you imagine how much stronger the lineup is now? It's like they just added a turbo boost to their engine.
Lose nothing. Now, I've been seeing people kind of, been up in arms a little bit about the way the trade went down in getting Sophie Cunningham. A lot of people have been kind of mad about giving up that number 8 pick. I'm here to tell you, bro. Sophie Cunningham is going to give you more production than any rookie ever could, bro. Ever could. And we got to remember, everything that's getting signed as of right now, it's 1-year rentals. These are 1-year rentals, guys. And so we gave up the number 8 pick. So be it. We still got a number 19 pick. We trying to win right now. What did I tell you? Sophie Cunningham, Natasha Howard, these are plug-and-play pieces. We need plug-and-pay, immediate impact. That's what we need. We need players to come in and make immediate impact.
But here's where it gets even wilder. The Fever didn't just improve their team for this season, they're setting themselves up for long-term success. While other teams are playing checkers, the Fever are playing 4D chess. They're not just focused on 2025, they're building a powerhouse for 2026 and beyond.
Even though they're on a good salary, they're on good contracts. This team is in win now mode, as in win in 2025 mode, win in 2026 mode, and a rookie does not really help them do that, especially at number 8. And they probably wouldn't have been able to if you just bring in an extra 100k in Sophie Cunningham. You've only got a minimum contract player. So basically, with the 8th pick there, if you want to sign this near max player and you want to keep Grace Berger, you can't. Simply put, with the way the salaries work, you have to make a choice. Is the 8th pick in this year's draft worth more than Grace Berger? And I want you guys to ask that. Is the 8th pick in this year's draft worth more than Grace? And my answer is no.
Now, you might be thinking, what about Nalissa Smith? Wasn't she supposed to be their future? Look, Smith was the number 2 pick, but let's be honest, her stock wasn't exactly soaring. The Fever needed an upgrade, and they got it. Sometimes, you've got to recognize when it's time to cut your losses and move on to bigger and better things.
It's a choice that had to be made, realistically. Realistically, it's a choice, and I still think that they made the right choice in a big picture. I think big picture, it was a smart decision.
And don't forget, the Fever still have cap space for one more big move. That's right, they're not done yet. They've been moving in silence, like some kind of basketball mafia, while other teams make a lot of noise but don't actually get anywhere. Something huge is coming, and when it hits, the whole league is going to be shook. So yeah, maybe some people are upset about that number 8 pick, but the Fever, they're laughing all the way to the bank. They didn't just win this trade, they outsmarted the entire league. And if you don't see it yet, just wait. When the season kicks off and you see Clark, Cunningham, and Howard lighting it up on the court, you'll realize the Fever aren't just building a team. They're building a dynasty.
I actually think the Fever get great return here, considering I don't know where all these people think Nalissa Smith's value was so high all of a sudden, given the way she played and everything else. But she goes to the Wings, gets a fresh start. Hopefully that works out for her. Arike Ogunbowale has already welcomed Nalissa Smith there. So that's part of this trade also in the 19th pick. I forgot to mention Nalissa Smith is gone. If you're the Fever, how great do you feel about that? My goodness, right? Like finally. I'm not trying to be mean to Nalissa. It's just I got frustrated watching her play, and she represented, I think, the remnants of anything else that was wrong with the team.
Let's dive into Nalissa Smith. You might be thinking, wait, didn't the Fever just trade away their former number 2 pick? Isn't that a huge loss? Well, buckle up, because this is where it gets interesting. Sure, Smith was once seen as the shining star of the Fever's future, but let's be honest, her performance over the past couple of seasons hasn't exactly been lighting up the league.
And today, we got news that Natasha Howard will be with the Fever. So, Rebecca, do you think that the Fever, big question here, are they title contenders?
I think they're one piece away. I think they're one piece away from being a title contender. I think adding Natasha Howard puts them potentially in the top 4. Now, if they could sign, say, Nneka Ogwumike or Satu Sabali or even Dawana Bonner, I would put them in the championship conversation. But they haven't done that. But they have certainly improved by signing Howard. She, to me, fits their system beautifully as a rim-running stretch 4. We know Caitlin Clark is the best get-ahead passer in the WNBA right now. Howard will run the floor.
Remember when Smith made a huge splash in her rookie year? She was putting up 13.5 points and grabbing 7.9 rebounds per game, and everyone thought she was the next big thing. But then last season rolled around and her numbers took a big dip, down to just 10.6 points and 7.1 rebounds. Can you believe it? That's not exactly the kind of performance you want from your supposed franchise player.
Howard is outstanding in the pick and roll. We saw how good she was doing that when she was in Seattle. What else does she bring? A massive amount of experience. Remember, all the conversation for Indiana going into the playoffs last year, first time they'd made it since 2016, was how little playoff experience they had. You see now they have 33 games. In that first playoff game against the Connecticut Sun this past season, they had 0 playoff experience from their starting 5. Howard brings playoff experience. She's won 3 championships with both Minnesota and Seattle. So to me, she's a huge, huge piece for them. But in terms of a championship, I think they're still one piece away.
Now you might be thinking, okay, so Smith didn't pan out, but isn't trading her away still a big risk? Well, this is where the Fever's genius really comes through. They didn't just dump Smith. They upgraded their roster in a huge way. Enter Natasha Howard. This woman isn't just a player. She's a walking, talking championship factory. We're talking 3 WNBA titles under her belt. 3. That's the kind of experience you can't teach.
I think the signing of Natasha Howard is huge. She fits the system beautifully. She is a terrific rim runner, and we know Caitlin Clark is one of the best get-ahead passers in the WNBA. She is also outstanding in the pick and roll. She is a floor spacer, and she brings experience. The Indiana Fever made the playoffs last year for the first time since 2016, and in that first game, none of their starters had any playoff experience. Natasha Howard has over 50 games of playoff experience, 3-time WNBA champion. She fits them beautifully.
But here's where it gets even crazier. Howard isn't just a winner. She's the perfect fit for the Fever's system. Think about it. She's a rim-running stretch 4 who can keep up with Caitlin Clark's lightning-fast pace. Can you imagine the pick-and-roll opportunities these two are going to create? It's going to be like watching basketball poetry in motion.